beautiful human beings of the internet. I'm Lauren Elizabeth, and I look like a floating head in a flannel. I travel a lot, like a lot. I pretty much live on an airplane as opposed to where my apartment is, which is in Los Angeles. I've learned a lot about traveling alone because I remember a few years ago I was so afraid to travel alone, and now I'm pretty much an expert. However, experts do mess up sometimes, some more than others. For me, all the time. So I figured I would share with you all of my best traveling tips because I'm an expert. I'll also share with you how much I suck at traveling. I'm gonna take you through a little rundown on how I traveled last weekend and give you some tips, but also share with you where I've completely messed up. First things first, I'm the realist. That's not funny. First things first, to book my flights, I go to kayak.com and I basically just put in when I need to leave and when I need to come back, like departing, arriving, whatever, and all the flights come up. So tip number one is to use a kayak or something like that that gives you all the cheapest flights as opposed to just going directly to the airline, because then it would take much longer as opposed to having it all in one place. So after I go to kayak and all the flights come up, basically I look for the cheapest one, and the cheapest ones are usually the ones earliest in the morning. Tip number two, travel really early in the morning because it's the cheapest. It's always a really good idea at the time. I'm like, hell yeah, saving money. I'm gonna not regret this at all, and it's gonna be totally fine. Then it's the night before your flight, and you don't sleep very often. So you're like, should I stay up or should I just keep chasing pavements? Basically, since my flight's so early, I never know if I should stay up or go to sleep. And I basically sit in my bed and do the math about 1,000,000 times of what time I should leave for the airport. Tip number three, figure out in advance how long it takes you to get to the airport, how much time you need for security, etc., so that you can wake up on time and not be in a rush. So after I've about decided, you know, it takes me 20 minutes to get to the airport, I need to be there an hour before boarding time, my time is this, so boarding time is blah, 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 blah. I basically come to the conclusion that my flight is so early, I have to leave so early for the airport. Why should I even go to bed? So basically last weekend, we all had to go to New York for DigiFest, and I decided, why go to bed? I'm just gonna stay up. All my friends were sleeping over, and their flight was at 9, so they didn't care that they were staying up. They actually got to get some sleep. This is where things start getting a little rocky. My flight boarded at like 5:20, so I needed to leave my place no later than 4. See, I can't even think of the math right now. That's how like slow this brain thing is. I got gypped on the whole brain thing. So we're all having a good time, we're staying up, filming videos, doing whatever. And then it starts to get a little late, it's like 2 o'clock, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a little nap for like an hour or so. So I go to bed and I set my alarm, but I only set one alarm. Tip number 4, set more than one alarm, because you probably won't wake up to the first one. And you might forget to press snooze. So if you didn't know, when you sleep, you're in a deep sleep sometimes, but you go in and out of a deep sleep. So since I only had such a short amount of time to go to bed, by the time my body actually fell asleep was the time that my alarm went off. So subconsciously in my sleep, my alarm goes off, and I decided to just turn it off in the middle of my slumber. So at least my body's like pretty good, and when I know I have to be somewhere, I'll usually wake up like at least a little bit before to give me like some time to get ready. I don't completely oversleep and miss things. So my body wakes up at about 5 o'clock in the morning. My flight was boarding at 5:20, so I wake up at 5:20 and I completely panic. I wasn't even done packing because I was planning on just packing all night. Tip number 5. Completely finish packing before doing anything before your flight. Don't even invite people over until you're done packing. So I basically decided to just zip up what I have in my suitcase, call an Uber, and just run downstairs to get into it. I left my keys at my apartment. I left like underwear, I left toiletries. I basically was like on my way to New York with a carry-on and like nothing else, and I was exhausted and I was out of it. So I got to the airport, I texted my friends, I was like, please someone bring my apartment keys, bring this, bring this, bring that, whatever. At least I had friends there to like bring stuff for me. I get to the airport and the security line is so long. So I'm freaking out. My flight is boarding like as we speak, and I know I'm not gonna make it if I have to stay in the security line. So I basically go up to this super sweet, not grumpy at all TSA lady. I'm like, listen, I really need to get to my flight. It is boarding right now. Can I like get to the front of the line somehow? And she was like, I mean, you can try. And I was like, thank you so much for your help. You are so sweet. I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of idiots like me that do it every day, but still, like, flights are really expensive. All I need to do is cut everyone in the line. I mean, whatever. So I was like, all right, thanks, every man for himself. Walk all the way up to the front of the line, and I was like, can I please cut you? My flight's boarding. And the lady was like, I mean, I don't care, but notioning back to the people behind her. What is someone really gonna say? If you're like in line for security and your flight doesn't board for an hour, are you really gonna like let someone miss their flight just because you don't want to let them cut you? I would hope not. So then they all just like look at me and they're like, and I'm like, I really don't want to kill myself this morning. Can I please cut you? Worked like a charm. Tip number 6, be really overly dramatic and look like you're a psychotic person on the verge of a mental breakdown to let people just move you along and get out of your business. So I literally make it through security and I'm sprinting to my gate right before the gate closed. They were about to close it and they were like, are you trying to get on this flight? Yes. So they let me on the flight. I literally made it by a hair. I wish this story was over, but it's not. Then on my way back, I booked another flight for 6 o'clock in the morning after being at ditchy all weekend and like not knowing what to do with my life and just staying up till like 3 o'clock in the morning with my friends every night in New York. And my flight was at 6 o'clock in the morning, which means I had to leave for the airport at like 4:30 from New York City. So I decided to stay up again. And this time I actually do stay up, but I forgot to charge my phone and obviously I was overly exhausted. And so I go get in an Uber, I go to the airport again, I get on the plane, and I had a connecting flight because connecting flights are cheaper. I fall asleep on my first flight, which was only 54 minutes connecting to Philadelphia. Next thing I know is I'm getting woken up by a flight attendant who's telling me I could stay on the plane, and I was so groggy and tired that I had no idea what was going on. And she was like, you can stay on the plane, it's fine, you can stay on the plane. Like they almost didn't wake me up. No, I have a connecting flight, I gotta get off. So I start running off the plane only to realize that my bag is still on the plane. So I run back on the plane, get my carry-on bag, run off the plane, get out my phone when my boarding pass is on, and then realize I only have 1% battery, and if my phone dies, I don't have a boarding pass, and I don't know where I'm going. So I started sprinting even more. Tip number 7, have a Mophie phone charger or something that can charge your phone when you don't have an outlet, because your phone's gonna die. So I'm running, and I literally get on this plane right before my phone dies, and everything's fine. I fall asleep again, all the way until I get back to LA. My phone's dead, I can't call an Uber, so I just get in the taxi. I get all the way back to my apartment, and the story comes full circle. I realize I still don't have my apartment keys, and I'm locked out of my apartment. It was incredible, to say the least. It was quite a weekend, being in New York for 24 hours and learning that I'm the worst traveler in the world, and maybe you should take my tips, but also refresh them a little bit, maybe your own little twist on them so you're not running around overly tired, almost missing flights with dead phones and no keys to your apartment, and no water, no dignity, no money, no family, 19 in the middle of Miami. But hey! Learn from me. I make a lot of mistakes just so that you guys can learn from them. That's the excuse, right? I guess, maybe? I don't know. Anyways, that's my traveling story. Those are my traveling tips. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want me to tell more stories about my completely horrible, messed up life, just kidding. It's just a series of unfortunate events. And hey, that was a best-selling book, so maybe I'll be a best-selling human being, whatever. And let me know in the comments below what you want to hear about in my life. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter and subscribe. Woo! I got that monologue memorized so well. And so should you. And you should be doing all of those things since I tell you to every week, and if you haven't done it yet, it's like, why aren't you listening? Maybe I'll talk about listening skills next week. Okay, I will see you guys in a few days. Bye!